Hi everyone, Apollo PS2 here, and I'd like to discuss the new Nanoweave nerf that is presumably coming to the PC version of the game soon. We had intel last week that Nanoweave would be nerfed and not removed for the new player experience update, and it appears that the most recent PS4 patch has told us what that nerf will be. The PS4 patch introduced the latest integration update, alongside what are presumably changes for the new player experience update that have been decided on. Nanoweave itself reduces the small arms weapon damage and a few other sources of damage by 20%, excluding headshots. This involves pretty much everything but damage coming from vehicles or explosives. Nanoweave is integral to the conversation about new player experience, since the classic story of a newer player in Planetside 2 is that they get the drop on some glowy armored loser whale, dump their entire mag of bullets into them, only for that whale to shrug, turn around, and kill the new player with 4 well-placed bullets between the eyes. What this causes is frustration, and the new player experience update is all about removing that frustration and the pain points a new player has in their first several or dozens of hours playing in Planetside 2. Whether that frustration comes from this example, from being bansheed right out of a spawn room, or just not having the game tell you where to go, it all contributes to Planetside 2's horrible, and I'm talking like over 90% horrible, attrition rate of players. Planetside 2 already has a high 2x headshot multiplier on most weapons, and the fact that any infantry player can have Nanoweave equipped without you knowing, and turn that multiplier effectively to 2.5 or even 3 times in relation to a new player without Nanoweave, that creates a massive amount of frustration. To add to the fire, you need to remember that Planetside 2 is a sandbox shooter with absolutely zero matchmaking whatsoever. Now to the actual nerf. The new Nanoweave is going to feature a 10% reduction to base movement speed. Yup, you heard that right. That's the solution. Last week, I was struggling to figure out why Nanoweave wasn't going to be removed, and I came to the conclusion that they didn't want to upset too many heavy mains and make their playstyle, less fun. It's too bad that with this nerf, that reasoning is thrown out the window and into the Hossin swamp. I mean, who in their right mind wants to be slower in a fast-paced FPS? It just isn't good design. It's interesting not only because this just pisses everybody off. I mean, maybe the hit reg will be better on Nanoweave players since they are slower, but it also touches a different issue in the game, which is shuffling, where players medkit chug and strafe to avoid shots when they've been caught red-handed, which is a big part of the game still. Now, I'm in the camp that shuffling isn't great, but I'd much rather see how the game handles removing BS like Nanoweave than start coming up with solutions like this to shuffling. The real issue here, though, is that the nerf still doesn't address the user pay point that it arguably should be trying to address. I can still turn around and chain headshot someone after they should have been able to kill me. The issue is damage model inconsistencies. As a player who actually plays the game, I want to know how many bullets it takes to kill my enemy. We have enough RNG and implants, believe me, and I don't need it in every single encounter now. With things like Nanoweave, Nano Armor Cloak, Symbiote, and Chameleon Module, it leaves players guessing, and you need to really take into account all the different scenarios and systems at play to understand the million-dollar question. Why the heck did I die? When players can't answer that and answer it confidently, they quit. And newer players aren't going to bother to take the time to learn the answers before moving on to a much better, much simpler, balanced shooter. They're going to try and have fun, they're going to die many times, and then they're going to leave. What I find most funny about all of this is that we are trying to improve new player experience. With this nerf, you have ways to mitigate its effects, all of which are locked behind BS RNG implants that only experienced players have a shot at realistically accessing. You have things like Athlete, where you can get 99% of your sprint speed back after 6 seconds, and restore most of your shuffling power with the 25% increased sprint acceleration and deceleration at max rank. You have Symbiote to quite literally just avoid Nanoweave and still equip something even more powerful like Advanced Shield Capacitor, which is arguably meta for the high KPM players. And those guys are the ones who are arguably the biggest offenders of contributing to new players quitting in Planetside 2. And then you still have Nano Armor Cloak, which means that when this little poophead infiltrator goes quite literally invisible, he gets not only 20%, but 5% of damage reduction. and it impacts headshots too. I mean, come on, folks. Why do we still have stuff like this in our game for 9 years and ask ourselves, why isn't the game good? In conclusion, I ask that we go back to the drawing board on this one. This feels like the Combined Arms Initiative all over again, but for infantry. And we all know how that turned out. It gives off the stench of a dev team that does not play their own game, or one that is selectively listening to a small portion of the player base that is high on God knows what. I think what really gets me here is that I'm still wondering what the reasons are for keeping Nanoweave. What successful game has a straight buff to HP? We have competitive suit slots that actually help new players and make the game more fun for everyone. We have flak armor to reasonably protect against explosives for players who are less aware of their faraway surroundings and are willing to sacrifice other alternatives. We have advanced shield capacitor to increase uptime and get folks back into a firefight. And we have grenade bandolier that is great for team play and point holding, where utility matters so much. Why not just cut the cancer out and move on? Anyways, consider the rant ended. Please discuss your thoughts below in the comments section and consider liking and subscribing. My other socials are down below as well, and I hope you all have a great weekend. Thanks.